Hare Krishna, everyone. Welcome to the live studios here at Radha Lane. Yes, it is actually the legal name of this little cul-de-sac that we're living on, and you can send letters if you want. Radha Lane, right next to Shri Nilamadava's wonderful temple. And we have Sri Nilamadava here in his better half, we haven't seen in a long time, and others. Okay, welcome to all of you out in cyberspace. Today is a very auspicious day. Yesterday we ended the reading of the Bhagavad Gita as it is, auspiciously. And today we're going to begin the reading of the Srimad Bhagavatam, the all-auspicious Srimad Bhagavatam. But before I do that, I want to read to you something so beautiful and so deep that I hope it makes this day, which is the disappearance day, of Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur. Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur appeared in the 19th century in India in a aristocratic family. On his father's side, one of his descendants was the father of Narottam Das Thakur, and Lord Nityananda used to come visit his house regularly. So this is the level of personality we're talking about. And he became a great literary person in India during the time of the British Raj, when the intelligentsia the young Indian intelligentsia were all searching for Western sources of literature and philosophy and different religions. And so he became like a beacon. And Hare Krishna Sarva, are you feeling better? Better? Good. Good to see you. Hare Krishna. So he was such a genius that even at the time when the British Raj was in charge of India, and they were always discriminating against the Indians, even those who took high positions. But Bhaktivinoda Thakur was so deep and so honest and so pure and so spiritually advanced and competent, supremely competent, that all the British people who were organizing things, they all wanted him to come to their place. So this is a sample, just a sample of his writing. Oh, sorry, wrong place. Where am I? Excuse me for my hesitation, but I seem to have mixed up three programs here, and I'm looking for the... Yes, I found it. Okay, are you ready? In honor of the disappearance of Bhaktivinoda Thakur, before we launch into the first day of the reading of the Srimad Bhagavatam, here is a poem written by Bhaktivinoda Thakur, which is called Saragrahi Vaishnava. Alas, for those that spend their days in festive mirth and joy, the dazzling, deadly liquid forms their heart for air employ, the shining bottles charm their eyes and draw their heart's embrace. The slaves of wine can never rise from what we call disgrace. Was man intended to be a brute in work and heart? Should man be lord of all around, from common sense depart? Man's glory is in common sense, dictating us the grace that man is made to live and love the beauteous heaven's embrace. The flesh is not our own, alas, the mortal frame a chain. The soul confined for former wrongs should try to rise again. Why then this childish play in that which cannot be our own, which falls within 100 years as if a rose ablown? Our life is but a rosy hue, to go ere long to naught. The soul alone would last for e'er, with good or evil fraught. How deep the thought of times to be, how grave the aspect looks, enwrapped in awe, and wrapped in awe become, oh, I, when reading nature's books. Man's life to him a problem dark, a screen both left and right. No soul hath come to tell us what exists beyond our sight. But then a voice, how deep and soft, within ourselves is left. Man, man, thou art immortal soul, thee death can never melt. For thee thy sire on high has kept a store of bliss above. To end of time thou art, oh, his who wants but purest love. O love, thy power and spell benign now might melt my soul to God. How can my earthly words describe that feeling soft and broad? Enjoyment, sorrow, but what lots to which the flesh is heir? The soul that sleeps alone concludes, in them it hath a share. And then, my friends, no more enjoy, nor weep for all below. The women, wine, and flesh of beasts, no love on thee bestow. But thine to love thy brother man, and give thyself to God. And God doth know your wage is fair. This fact is true and broad. Forget the past that sleeps, and ne'er the future dream at all, but act in times that are with thee, and progress thee shall call. But tell me not in reasoning cold, the soul is made alone by earth's mechanic lifeless rules, and to destruction prone. My God who gave us life, and all alone the soul can kill, or give it all the joys above his promise to fulfill. So push on thy onward march, O soul, against an evil deed that stands with soldiers, hate and lust, a hero be indeed. Maintain thy post in spirit worlds as firmly as you can. Let never matter push thee down, O stand, heroic man. O Sharagrahi Vaishnav soul, thou art an angel fair. Lead me on to Vrindavan, and Spirit's power declare. There rests my soul from matter free upon my lover's arms. Eternal peace and Spirit's love are all my chanting charms. Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur ki jai. His influence was so profound that single-handedly, after he procured, after studying all the literatures of the English and Western philosophers and religions thoroughly, and giving lectures to all kinds of groups of people, and settling their conflicts in a way that the Bhagavad, which we are about to start reading today, rose to the surface of all of these speculative thoughts and reasonings. And even some people were trying to use the Bhagavad to make their sectarian points of view accepted as opposed to anyone else. That's what sect means, sectarian. And he couldn't find a Caitanya Charitamrita or original Bhagavatam. Took him 3-4 years to find the actual book. In India, that's how bad it had become. That's how covered. So time covers the truth. Even when it's there in front of us and it's well known and pervading, time covers it again and again and again. And therefore, Krishna has to come and he has to send representatives of God in order to uncover the truth and spread it around. So Bhaktivinoda did that, and then he had a son, and Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, who took up his work and spread it all over India. And then our own beloved Srila Prabhupada, His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, met Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur when he was 22 years old, or 26 years old, sorry, in 1922. And the first words out of Bhaktisiddhanta's mouth to our Srila Prabhupada was, you speak English, why don't you go to the West and spread Lord Chaitanya's teaching in English? It will do good for both you and for the world. First words out of his mouth. Bhaktivinoda Thakur was the first pure Vaishnava to send a book on this level in English to the Western world. Lord Chaitanya's precepts and something or other. So, with that in mind, we greet you all with all the love I can from my small position. And we're going to begin again to hear the wonderful glorification from Srila Sanatana Goswami, who is the senior disciple of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who wrote a very wonderful prayer glorifying the Srimad Bhagavatam. It's called Srimad Bhagavata Mahima Stotram. It goes like this. Sarva Shastrabdi Piyusha Sarva Vedaika Satpala Sarva Siddhanta Ratnadya Sarvalokaika Drikprada. O nectar from the ocean of all scriptures, singular fruit of all the Vedas, rich mine of the precious gems of all conclusive truths, you are the only giver of light to all the worlds. Sarva Bhagavata Prana Srimad Bhagavata Prabho Kalidwan Duritaditya Sri Krishna Parivartita. O life heir of all the Supreme Lord's devotees, O Master Srimad Bhagavatam, you are the sun risen in the darkness of Kali. You are the exact image of Sri Krishna. Paramananda Pataya Prema Varshaksharayate Sarvada Sarvasevyaya Sri Krishnaya Namostume. I bow down to you, who are supremely blissful to read. Your every syllable pours down a flood of prema. You can always be served by everyone. You are Sri Krishna himself. Madeka Bando Matsangin Madguro Man Mahadana Man Nistadaka Madbhagya Mad Ananda Namostute. My only friend, my constant companion, my spiritual master, my great wealth, my savior, my good fortune, my source of ecstasy, I bow down to you. Asadu sadutadayin atini chochata kada hanamun chagadachin mam premna rit kantayospura. O bestower of saintliness to the unsaintly, O exalter of the most fallen, please never leave me. Always appear in my heart and my voice with pure love. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Hare Krishna. Dedication. To Srila Prabhupada, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj, my spiritual master, on the 26th annual ceremony of his disappearance day. He lives forever by his divine instructions, and the follower lives with him. Preface. We must know the present need of human society. And what is that need? Human society is no longer bounded by geographical limits to particular countries or communities. Human society is broader than in the Middle Ages. And the world tendency is toward one state or one human society. The ideals of spiritual communism, according to Srimad Bhagavatam, are based more or less on the oneness of the entire human society, nay, of the entire energy of living beings. The need is felt by great thinkers to make this a successful ideology. Srimad Bhagavatam will fulfill this need in human society. It begins, therefore, with an aphorism of Vedanta philosophy, Janmad Yasya Yataha, to establish the ideal of a common cause. Human society at the present moment is not in the darkness of oblivion. It has made rapid progress in the fields of material comforts, education, and economic development throughout the entire world. But there is a pinprick somewhere in the social body at large, and therefore there are large-scale quarrels even over less important issues. There is a need of a clue as to how humanity can become one in peace, friendship, and prosperity with a common cause. Srimad Bhagavatam will fill this need, for it is a cultural presentation for the re-spiritualization of the entire human society. Srimad Bhagavatam should be introduced also in the schools and colleges, for it is recommended by the great student devotee Prahlad Maharaj in order to change the demoniac face of society. Komara achadet pragyo dharman bhagavatan iha durlabang manusham janma tad apya dhruvamartadam. Disparity in human society is due to lack of principles in a godless civilization. There is God, or the Almighty One, from whom everything emanates, by whom everything is maintained, and in whom everything is merged to rest. Material science has tried to find the ultimate source of creation very insufficiently, but it is a fact that there is one ultimate source of everything that be. This ultimate source is explained rationally and authoritatively in the beautiful Bhagavatam, or Srimad Bhagavatam. Srimad Bhagavatam is the transcendental science, not only for knowing the ultimate source of everything, but also for knowing our relation with Him and our duty toward perfection of the human society on the basis of this perfect knowledge. It is powerful reading matter in the Sanskrit language, and it is now rendered into English elaborately so that simply by a careful reading one will know God perfectly well, so much so that the reader will be sufficiently educated to defend himself from the onslaught of atheists. Over and above this, the reader will be able to convert others to accepting God as a concrete principle. Srimad Bhagavatam begins with the definition of the ultimate source. It is a bona fide commentary on the Vedanta Sutra by the same author, Srila Vyasadeva, and gradually it develops into 9 cantos up to the highest state of God realization. The only qualification one needs to study this great book of transcendental knowledge is to proceed step by step, cautiously, and not jump forward haphazardly, as with an ordinary book. It should be gone through chapter by chapter, one after another. The reading manner is arranged with its original Sanskrit text, its English transliteration, synonyms, translation, and purports, so that one is sure to become a God-realized soul at the end of finishing the first 9 cantos. The 10th canto is distinct from the first 9 cantos because it deals directly with the transcendental activities of the personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna. One will be unable to capture the effects of the 10th canto without going through the first 9 cantos. The book is complete in 12 cantos, each independent, but it is good one after another. I must admit my frailties in presenting Srimad Bhagavatam, but still I am hopeful of its good reception by the thinkers and leaders of society, on the strength of the following statement of Srimad Bhagavatam 1.5.11. Tad vagvisargo janataga viplavo yasmin pratishlokam abhaddavatipi namanyanantasya yashon kitani yat shrinvanti gayanti grinanti sadavaha. On the other hand, that literature which is full with descriptions of the transcendental glories of the name, fame, form, and pastimes of the unlimited Supreme Lord is a transcendental creation meant to bring about a revolution in the impious life of a misdirected civilization. Such transcendental literatures, even though irregularly composed, are heard, sung, and accepted by purified men who are thoroughly honest. Om Tat Sat. A.C. Bhaktivinoda Swami, dated at Delhi, December 15th, 1962. So you can hear in Srila Prabhupada's English influences from Bhaktivinoda Thakur. So eloquent and so clear, simple, accessible. And so for this reason, personally, I've dedicated my life now to just reading his writings verbatim in public, wherever I go, to whomever I meet. And if I can answer questions or we can have reflections afterwards, that's fine. But the majority of what we do is just to hear this sound of Srila Prabhupada's original writings in English, because these books were empowered to spread Krishna consciousness all over the world. And if you go anywhere where there's an assembly of devotees and ask them this question, how many of you came to Krishna consciousness somehow or other as a result of one of Srila Prabhupada's books? Almost unanimously, every time in every place, everyone raises their hands. And yet, despite that, sometimes even now, certain persons are deciding that rather than distribute Srila Prabhupada's Bhagavad Gita as it is, that we should maybe distribute another book, because some of the things in it, are a little, hard for people to hear in this modern age, and maybe we need to adapt it to. But actually that wasn't Srila Prabhupada's mission, to change what we do in order to make it more attractive to everyone. Because the truth can't be heard by everyone. The truth can only be heard by a person who's honest. We're taught in school that honesty means you always do what you say you're going to do, you never tell a lie, you pay your taxes, and all of those things. But actually, real honesty means when the truth hits your ear, you can accept it. You can understand it and accept it for what it is. And that's all it takes. Honesty, sincerity, and a lack of envy. And that's a tall order, because all of us in the material world have come here because of envy. We all came to the material world because we wanted to enjoy, own, and control God's energy. And in that way, in a sense, pretend to be God. Okay. Hare Krishna. Introduction. The concept of God and the conception of absolute truth are not on the same level. The Srimad Bhagavatam hits on the target of the absolute truth. The conception of God indicates the controller, whereas the conception of the absolute truth indicates the summum bonum, or the ultimate source of all energies. There is no difference of opinion about the personal feature of God as the controller, because a controller cannot be impersonal. Of course, modern government, especially democratic government, is impersonal to some extent. But ultimately, the chief executive head is a person, and the impersonal feature of government is subordinate to the personal feature. So without a doubt, whenever we refer to control over others, we must admit the existence of a personal feature. Because there are different controllers for different managerial positions, there may be many small gods. Note to Trump. According to the Bhagavad Gita, any controller who has some specific extraordinary power is called a vibhutimat sattva, or controller empowered by the Lord. There are many vibhutimat sattvas, controllers, or gods with various specific powers, but the absolute truth is one without a second. This Srimad Bhagavatam designates the absolute truth, or the summum bonum, as the param satyam. The author of Srimad Bhagavatam, Srila Vyasadeva, first offers his respectful obeisances under the param satyam, absolute truth. And because the param satyam is the ultimate source of all energies, the param satyam is the Supreme Person. The gods, or the controllers, are undoubtedly persons, but the param satyam, from whom the gods derive powers of control, is the Supreme Person. The Sanskrit word Ishvara, controller, conveys the import of God, but the Supreme Person is called the Paramashvara, or the Supreme Ishvara. The Supreme Person, or Parameshvara, is the Supreme Conscious Personality. And because he does not derive any power from any other source, he is supremely independent. In the Vedic literatures, Brahma is described as the supreme god, or the head of all other gods like Indra, Chandra, and Varuna. But the Srimad Bhagavatam confirms that even Brahma is not independent as far as his power and knowledge are concerned. He received knowledge in the form of the Vedas from the Supreme Person, who resides within the heart of every living being. The Supreme Personality knows everything, directly and indirectly. individual, infinitesimal persons who are parts and parcels of the Supreme Personality may know directly and indirectly everything about their bodies or external features, but the Supreme Personality knows everything about both his external and internal features. The words Janmad Yasya suggest that the source of all production, maintenance, or destruction is the same Supreme Conscious Person. Even in our present experience, we can know that nothing is generated from inert matter. But inert matter can be generated from the living entity. For instance, by contact with the living entity, the material body develops into a working machine. Men with a poor fund of knowledge mistake the bodily machinery to be the living being. But the fact is that the living being is the basis of the bodily machine. The bodily machine is useless as soon as the spirit living spark is away from it. Similarly, the original source of all material energy is the Supreme Person. This fact is expressed in all the Vedic literatures, and all the exponents of spiritual science have accepted this truth. The living force is called Brahman, and one of the greatest acharyas, teachers, namely Sripad Shankaracharya, has preached that Brahman is substance, whereas the cosmic world is category. The original source of all energies is the living force, and he is logically accepted as the Supreme Person. He is therefore conscious of everything, past, present, and future, and also of each and every corner of his manifestations, both material and spiritual. An imperfect living being does not even know what is happening within his own personal body. He eats his food, but does not know how this food is transformed into energy, or how it sustains his body. When a living being is perfect, he is aware of everything that happens, and since the Supreme Person is all perfect, it is quite natural that he knows everything in all detail. When a living being is perfect, he is aware of everything that happens. And since the Supreme Person is all perfect, it is quite natural that he knows everything in all detail. Consequently, the perfect personality is addressed in the Srimad Bhagavatam as Vasudeva, one who lives everywhere, in full consciousness and in full possession of his complete energy. All of this is clearly explained in the Srimad Bhagavatam, and the reader has ample opportunity to study this critically. In the modern age, Lord Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu preached the Srimad Bhagavatam by practical demonstration. It is easier to penetrate into the topics of the Srimad Bhagavatam through the medium of Sri Chaitanya's causeless mercy. Therefore, a short sketch of his life and precepts is inserted herein to help the reader understand the real merit of Srimad Bhagavatam. It is imperative that one learn the Srimad Bhagavatam from the person Bhagavatam. The person Bhagavatam is one whose very life is Srimad Bhagavatam in practice. Since Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is the absolute personality of Godhead, he is both Bhagavan and Bhagavatam, in person and in sound. Therefore, his process of approaching the Srimad Bhagavatam is practical for all people of the world. It was his wish that Srimad Bhagavatam be preached in every nook and corner of the world by those who happened to take their birth in India. The Srimad Bhagavatam is the science of Krishna. the absolute personality of Godhead, of whom we have preliminary information from the text of the Bhagavad Gita, which we just finished reading, by the way, in preparation for this. Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu has said that anyone, regardless of what he is, who is well versed in the science of Krishna, Srimad Bhagavatam and Bhagavad Gita, can become an authorized preacher or preceptor in the science of Krishna. There is a need for the science of Krishna in human society, for the good of all suffering humanity of the world. And we simply request the leaders of all nations to pick up this science of Krishna for their own good, for the good of society, and for the good of all the world's people. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. A short sketch of the life and teachings of Lord Chaitanya, the preacher of Srimad Bhagavatam. Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the greatest apostle of love of God and the father of the congregational chanting of the holy name of the Lord, advented himself at Sridham Mayapur, a quarter in the then city of Navadvip in Bengal, on the Palguni Purnima evening in the year 1407 Shakabda, corresponding to February 18th, 1486 by the Christian calendar. His father, Sri Jagannath Mishra, a learned Brahmana from the district of Sailet, came to Navadvip as a student because at that time Navadvip was considered to be the center of education and culture. He domiciled on the banks of the Ganges after marrying Srimati Shachidevi, a daughter of Srila Nilambara Chakravarti, the great learned scholar of Navadvip. Jagannath Mishra had a number of daughters by his wife Srimati Shachidevi, but they all expired at an early age. The two surviving sons, Sri Vishwarupa and Vishwambara, became the last object of their parental affection. The 10th child and youngest son, Vishwambara, later became known as Nimai Pandit, and then, after accepting the renounced order of life, Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu exhibited his transcendental activities for 48 years and then disappeared from this mortal world in the year 1455, Shakabda, at Puri. For his first 24 years, he remained in Navadvip as a student and householder. His first wife was Srimati Lakshmi Priya, who died at an early age when he was away from home. When he returned from East Bengal, he was requested by his mother to accept a second wife, and he agreed. His second wife was Srimati Vishnu Priya Devi, who bore the separation of the Lord throughout her life because the Lord took the order of sannyas at the age of 24, when Srimati Vishnu Priya was barely 16 years old. After taking sannyasa, the Lord made his headquarters at Jagannath Puri due to the request of his mother, Srimati Shachidevi. The Lord remained for 24 years at Puri. For 6 years of this time, he traveled continuously all over India, and especially throughout southern India, preaching the Srimad Bhagavatam. Lord Chaitanya not only preached the Srimad Bhagavatam, but propagated the teachings of the Bhagavad Gita as well in the most practical way. In the Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna is depicted as the absolute personality of Godhead, and his last teachings in that great book of transcendental knowledge instruct that one should give up all other modes of religious activities and accept him, Lord Sri Krishna, as the only worshipable Lord. The Lord then assured that all his devotees would be protected from all sorts of sinful acts, and that for them there would be no cause of anxiety. Unfortunately, despite Lord Sri Krishna's direct order and the teachings of the Bhagavad Gita, less intelligent people misunderstand him to be nothing but a great historical personality, and thus they cannot accept him as the original personality of Godhead. Such men with a poor fund of knowledge are misled by many non-devotees. Thus the teachings of the Bhagavad Gita were misinterpreted even by great scholars. After the disappearance of Lord Sri Krishna, there were hundreds of commentaries on the Bhagavad Gita by many erudite scholars, and almost every one of them was motivated by self-interest. Lord Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu is the self-same Lord Sri Krishna. This time, however, he appeared as a great devotee of the Lord in order to preach to the people in general, as well as to religionists and philosophers about the transcendental position of Sri Krishna, the primeval Lord and the cause of all causes. The essence of his preaching is that Lord Sri Krishna, who appeared at Brajabhumi, Vrindavana, as the son of the king of Braja. We'll wait until our local saint, has to depart. Sorry. See you tomorrow. Hare Krishna. Nitya Kishori's major prime mover for a lot of the persons in the room here today. Okay. Okay. Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is the self-same Lord Sri Krishna. This time, however, he appeared as a great devotee of the Lord in order to preach to the people in general, as well as to religionists and philosophers about the transcendental position of Sri Krishna, the primeval Lord and the cause of all causes. The essence of his preaching is that Lord Sri Krishna, who appeared at Brajabhumi, Vrindavan, is the son of the king of Braja, Nanda Maharaja, is the supreme personality of Godhead, and is therefore worshipable by all. Vrindavan Dham is non-different from the Lord, because the name, fame, form, and place where the Lord manifests himself are all identical with the Lord as absolute knowledge. Therefore, Vrindavan Dham is as worshipable as the Lord. The highest form of transcendental worship of the Lord was exhibited by the damsels of Brajabhumi in the form of pure affection for the Lord. And Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu recommends this process as the most excellent mode of worship. He accepts the Srimad Bhagavatam Purana as the spotless literature for understanding the Lord, and he preaches that the ultimate goal of life for all human beings is to attain the stage of prema, or love of God. Many devotees of Lord Chaitanya, like Srila Vrindavan Das Thakur, Sri Lochan Das Thakur, Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami, Sri Kavi Karnapura, Sri Prabodhananda Saraswati, Srila Rupa Goswami, Srila Sanatana Goswami, Sri Raghunath Bhatta Goswami, Sri Jiva Goswami, Sri Gopala Bhatta Goswami, Sri Raghunath Dasa Goswami, and in this later age, within 200 years, Sri Vishwanath Chakrabarti, Sri Baladeva Vidyabhushana, Sri Shamananda Goswami, Sri Narottam Das Thakur, Sri Bhaktivinoda Thakur, and at last, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, our spiritual master, and many other great and renowned scholars and devotees of the Lord have prepared voluminous books and literatures on the life and precepts of the Lord. Such literatures are all based on the Shastras like the Vedas, Puranas, Upanishads, Ramayana, Mahabharata, and other histories and authentic literatures approved by the recognized acharyas. They are unique in composition and unrivaled in presentation, and they are full of transcendental knowledge. Unfortunately, the people of the world are still ignorant of them, but when these literatures, which are mostly in Sanskrit and Bengali, come to light the world, and when they are presented before thinking people, then India's glory and the message of love will overflow this morbid world, which is vainly searching for peace and prosperity by various illusory methods not approved by the acharyas in the chain of disciplic succession. The readers of this small description of the life and precepts of Lord Chaitanya will profit much to go through the books of Srila Vrindavan Das Thakur, Sri Chaitanya Bhagavata, and Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami, Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita. The early life of the Lord is most fascinatingly expressed by the author of Chaitanya Bhagavata, and as far as the teachings are concerned, they are more vividly explained in the Chaitanya Charitamrita. Now they are available to the English-speaking public in our teachings of Lord Chaitanya. This was before he published the Chaitanya Charitamrita. The Lord's early life was recorded by one of his chief devotees and contemporaries, namely Srila Murari Gupta, a medical practitioner of that time, and the latter part of the life of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was recorded by his private secretary, Sri Damodar Goswami, or Srila Sarup Damodar, who was practically a constant companion of the Lord at Puri. These two devotees recorded practically all the incidents of the Lord's activities, and later on, all the books dealing with the Lord, which are above mentioned, were composed on the basis of the Katachas, notebooks, of Srila Damodar Goswami and Murari Gupta. So this is an important point, because these are written evidence, eyewitness evidence, written in books that have formed the basis of these literatures. So the Lord advented himself on the Palguni Purnima evening of 1407, Shakabda, and it was by the will of the Lord that there was a lunar eclipse on that evening. During the hours of eclipse, it was the custom of the Hindu public to take bath in the Ganges or any other sacred river and chant the Vedic mantras for purification. When Lord Chaitanya was born during the lunar eclipse, all India was roaring with the sound of Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. These 16 names of the Lord are mentioned in many Puranas and Upanishads, and they are described as the Taraka Brahmanama of this age. It is recommended in the Shastras that offenseless chanting of these holy names of the Lord can deliver a soul from material bondage. There are innumerable names of the Lord, both in India and outside, and all of them are equally good, because all of them indicate the Supreme Personality of Godhead. But because these 16 are especially recommended for this age, people should take advantage of them and follow the path of the great acharyas, who attained success by practicing the rules of the Shastras, revealed scriptures. The simultaneously occurrence of the Lord's appearance and the lunar eclipse indicated the distinctive mission of the Lord. This mission was to preach the importance of chanting the holy names of the Lord in this age of Kali, quarrel. In this present age, quarrels take place even over trifles, and therefore the Shastras have recommended for this age a common platform for realization, namely chanting the holy names of the Lord. People can hold People can hold meetings to glorify the Lord in their respective languages and with melodious songs, and if such performances are executed in an offenseless manner, it is certain that the participants will gradually attain spiritual perfection without having to undergo more rigorous methods. At such meetings, everyone, the learned and the foolish, the rich and the poor, the Hindus and the Muslims, the Englishmen and the Indians, and the Chandalas and the Brahmanas, can all hear the transcendental sounds and thus cleanse the dust of material association from the mirror of the heart. To confirm the Lord's mission, all the people of the world will accept the holy name of the Lord as the common platform for the universal religion of mankind. In other words, the advent of the holy name took place along with the advent of Lord Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu. When the Lord was on the lap of his mother, he would at once stop crying as soon as the ladies surrounding him chanted the holy names and clapped their hands. This peculiar incident was observed by the neighbors with awe and veneration. Sometimes the young girls took pleasure in making the Lord cry and then stopping him by chanting the holy name. So from his very childhood, the Lord began to preach the importance of the holy name. In his early age, Lord Sri Caitanya was known as Nimai. This name was given by his beloved mother because the Lord took his birth between a neem tree in the courtyard of his paternal house. When the Lord was offered solid food at the age of 6 months in the Annaprasana ceremony, the Lord indicated his future activities. At this time it was customary to offer the child both coins and books in order to get some indication of the future tendencies of the child. The Lord was offered on one side coins and on the other the Srimad Bhagavatam. The Lord accepted the Bhagavatam instead of the coins. When he was a mere baby crawling in the yard, one day a snake appeared before him and the Lord began to play with it. All the members of the house were struck with fear and awe, but after a little while the snake went away and the baby was taken away by his mother. Once he was stolen by a thief who intended to steal his ornaments, but the Lord took a pleasure trip on the shoulder of the bewildered thief who was searching for a solitary place in order to rob the baby. It so happened that the thief, wandering hither and thither, finally arrived just before the house of Jagannath Mishra, and being afraid of being caught, dropped the baby at once. Of course, the anxious parents and relatives were glad to see the lost child. Once a pilgrim Brahmana was received at the house of Jagannath Mishra, and when he was offering food to the Godhead, the Lord appeared before him and partook of the prepared food. The eatables had to be rejected because the child had touched them, and so the Brahmana had to make another preparation. The next time the same thing happened, and when this happened repeatedly for the third time, the baby was finally put to bed. At about 12 at night, when all the members of the house were fast asleep within their closed rooms, the pilgrim Brahmana offered his specially prepared foods to the deity, and in the same way, the baby Lord appeared before the pilgrim and spoiled his offerings. The Brahmana then began to cry, but since everyone was fast asleep, no one could hear him. At that time, the baby Lord appeared before the fortunate Brahmana and disclosed his identity as Krishna himself. The Brahmana was forbidden to disclose this incident, and the baby returned to the lap of his mother. There are many similar incidents in his childhood. As a naughty boy, he sometimes used to tease the orthodox Brahmanas who used to bathe in the Ganges. When the Brahmanas complained to his father that he was splashing them with water instead of attending school, the Lord suddenly appeared before his father as though just coming from school, with all his school clothes and books. at the bathing ghat, he also used to play jokes on the neighboring girls who engaged in worshipping Shiva in hopes of getting good husbands. This is a common practice amongst unmarried girls in the Hindu families. While they were engaged in such worship, the Lord naughtily appeared before him and said, "My dear sisters, please give me all the offerings you have just brought for Lord Shiva. Lord Shiva is my devotee, and Parvati is my maidservant. If you worship me, then Lord Shiva and all the other demigods will be more satisfied." Some of them refused to obey the naughty Lord, and he would curse them that due to their refusal they would be married to old men who had 7 children by their previous wives. Out of fear and sometimes out of love, the girls would also offer him various goods. And then the Lord would bless them and assure them that they would have very good young husbands and they would be mothers of dozens of children. The blessings would enliven the girls, but they used often to complain of these incidents to their mothers. In this way, the Lord passed his early childhood. When he was just 16 years old, he started his own Chatuspati, village school conducted by a learned Brahmana. In this school, he would simply explain Krishna, even in readings of grammar. Srila Jiva Goswami, in order to please the Lord, later composed a grammar in Sanskrit in which all the rules of grammar were explained with examples that used the holy names of the Lord. This grammar is still current. It is known as Harinamamrita Vyakarana and is prescribed in the syllabus of schools in Bengal. During this time, a great Kashmir scholar named Kesava Kashmiri came to Navadvip to hold discussions on the Shastras. The Kashmir Pandit was a champion scholar, and he had traveled to all places of learning in India. Finally, he came to Navadvip to contest the learned Brahmin Pandits there. The Pandits of Navadvip decided to match Nimai Pandit, Lord Caitanya, with the Kashmir Pandit, thinking that if Nimai Pandit were defeated, they would have another chance to debate with the scholar, for Nimai Pandit was only a boy. And if the Kashmir Pandit was defeated, then they would even be more glorified, because people would proclaim that a mere boy of Navadvip had defeated a champion scholar who was famous throughout India. It so happened that Nimai Pandit met Kesava Kashmiri while strolling on the banks of the Ganges. The Lord requested him to compose a Sanskrit verse in praise of the Ganges, and the Pandita, within a short time, composed 100 shlokas, reciting the verses like a storm and showing the strength of his vast learning. Nimai Pandita at once memorized all the shlokas without an error. He quoted the 64th shloka and pointed out certain rhetorical and literary irregularities. He particularly questioned the Pandit's use of the word Bhavani Bhartu. He pointed out that the use of this word was redundant. Bhavani means the wife of Shiva, and who else can be her Bharta or husband? He also pointed out several other discrepancies, and the Kashmir Pandita was struck with wonder. He was astonished that a mere student of grammar could point out the literary mistakes of an erudite scholar. Although this matter was ended prior to any public meeting, the news spread like wildfire all over Navadvip. But finally, Kesava Kashmiri was ordered in a dream by Saraswati, the goddess of learning, to submit to the Lord, and thus the Kashmir Pandita became a follower of the Lord. The Lord was then married with great pomp and gaiety, and at this time he began to preach the congregational chanting of the holy name of the Lord at Navadvip. Some of the Brahmanas became envious of his popularity, and they put many hindrances on his path. They were so jealous that they finally took the matter before the Muslim magistrate at Navadvip. Bengal was then governed by Pathans, and the governor of the province was Nawab Hussain Shah. The Muslim magistrate of Navadvip took up the complaints of the Brahmanas seriously, and at first he warned the followers of Nimai Pandit not to chant loudly the name of Hari. But Lord Chaitanya asked his followers to disobey the orders of the Kashi, and they went on with their Sankirtan chanting party as usual. Just a little detail, this was actually the first day that Lord Chaitanya and his intimate followers came out of the room in which they had been chanting just with the pure devotees nightly every night. They hadn't brought the Sankirtan out into the streets. So this incident, when this happened, Lord Chaitanya came out into the streets, and it'll explain what happens now. The magistrate then sent constables who interrupted the Sankirtan and broke some of the mridanga drums. When Nimai Pandit heard of this incident, he organized a party for civil disobedience. He is the pioneer of the civil disobedience movements in India for the right cause. He organized a procession of 100,000 men with thousands of mridangas and kartalas, hand cymbals, and this procession passed over the roads of Navadvip in defiance of the Kazi, who had issued the order. Finally, the procession reached the house of the Kazi, who went upstairs out of fear of the masses. The great crowds assembled at the Kazi's house displayed a violent temper, but the Lord asked them to be peaceful. At this time, the Kazi came down and tried to pacify the Lord by addressing him as his nephew. He pointed out that he referred to Nilambara Chakrabarti as uncle, and that consequently Srimati Shachi Devi, the mother of Nimai Pandit, was his cousin sister. He asked the Lord whether his sister's son could be angry with his maternal uncle, and the Lord replied that since the Kazi was his maternal uncle, he should receive his nephew well at his home. In this way, the issue was mitigated, and the two learned scholars began a long discussion on the Quran and Hindu Shastras. The Lord raised the question of cow killing, and the Kazi properly answered him by referring to the Quran. In turn, the Kazi questioned the Lord about cow sacrifice in the Vedas, and the Lord replied that such sacrifice as mentioned in the Vedas is not actually cow killing. In that sacrifice, an old bull or cow was sacrificed for the sake of receiving a fresh, younger life by the power of Vedic mantras. But in the Kali Yuga, such cow sacrifices are forbidden because there are no qualified brahmanas capable of conducting such a sacrifice. In fact, in Kali Yuga, all yagyas, sacrifices, are forbidden because they are useless attempts by foolish men. In Kali Yuga, only the Sankirtan Yagya is recommended for all practical purposes. Speaking in this way, the Lord finally convinced the Kazi, who became the Lord's follower. The Kazi thenceforth declared that no one should hinder the Sankirtan movement, which was started by the Lord, and the Kazi left this order in his will for the sake of progeny. The Kazi's tomb still exists in the area of Navadvip, and Hindu pilgrims go there to show their respects. The Kazi's descendants are residents, and they never objected to Sankirtana, even during the Hindu-Muslim riot days. This incident shows clearly that the Lord was not a so-called timid Vaishnava. A Vaishnava is a fearless devotee of the Lord, and for the right cause, he can take any step suitable for the purpose. Arjuna was also a Vaishnava devotee of Lord Krishna, and he fought valiantly for the satisfaction of the Lord. Similarly, Brajangaji, or Hanuman, was also a devotee of Lord Rama, and he gave lessons to the non-devotee party of Ravana. The principles of Vaishnavism are to satisfy the Lord by all means. A Vaishnava is by nature a non-violent, peaceful living being. and he has all the good qualities of God. But when the non-devotee blasphemes the Lord or his devotee, the Vaishnava never tolerates such impudency. And I'm going to stop there. Hare Krishna. I have to stop at 7:45 because I read the Caitanya Charitamrita in the morning, doing the audiobook for the BBT. So I have to preserve my voice. So Hare Krishna. It's wonderful that all of you have come to hear the Bhagavatam, and I hope you keep coming and hear more about the pastimes of Lord Chaitanya, which are very important for the inculcation of this philosophy. So, let's have some reflections. This is our program. By Shishika Prabhu and I started doing this together in Govardhan during Kartik every year since 15 years. And just this last year I decided, well actually 5 years ago, but I haven't done it every night like this publicly, especially live stream. But I just decided to take what we did every day in Kartik. The difference is that in Kartik we do 5 hours a day. Yeah, it's pretty intense. But anyway, we're going to do this every day, wherever I am, and by the grace of Srila Prabhupada and the Vaishnavas, the BBT trustees, I'll probably be here for the next 2 or 3 years, more often than not, to finish this audiobook, which is not an easy thing. So we'll do this every night. Hare Krishna. So, anything stuck out in your mind that you want to discuss or that you have? Yes, Hannah. Bhakti and Hannah is going to speak. Is it normal?
Or is it just our imagination?
Or is it just our imagination?
To be able to see these pastimes?
To be able to see these pastimes in our minds? Yes, it is normal. It is normal. The normal condition of the spiritual being is when you close your eyes, you're supposed to be able to see God automatically. Hare Krishna. Hare Bol. Glories to Prabhupada. Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur ki jai. Yeah, so that is normal. But the normal state in the material world is that the soul is covered by a material body and a material mind. And the results of activities in the material world creates a kind of film or dust in the mirror of the mind. It doesn't allow the soul to see himself or God when one's eyes are closed. There's a mechanical process, yogic process, for cleansing the dust by breathing, by manipulation of the airs in the body, by different bodily postures. And eventually, nowadays it's just done for physical exercise to get healthy, so one can have better sex life or something like that. But actually it's meant, as described in the Gita, yukta asita matparaha. So in the verses that describe this process of Astanga Yoga in the Gita, the last line of it is, and those verses say, find a holy place, find a secluded place, sit straight with your back and neck straight, sit a certain way, celibate, fix the mind on one point. And then in the last verse it says, yukta asita matparaha, make me the goal of life, Krishna. So there is a process, a mechanical process for doing that, but unfortunately for us, in this age of Kali, it's not practical, because the mind is very agitated from all of the different technical, so-called advancements of technology that cause these sounds and forms and all kinds of things to go through the ether and go through our now we're doing Wi-Fi live stream, and people are seeing this in other parts of the world through this little gizmo, this little gadget, this phone. But it's also going through all of our brains and our bodies. And therefore, we're always agitated in Kali Yuga. No matter how much you put a big smile on your face and act like everything's okay, inside we're going, no, what's going on? No, what about this? But I want that. No, I can't have it. I had this. Oh no, it's lost. Now what? And on and on and on and on, and it never stops. So that Ashtanga Yoga practice is not practical. So yes, the natural state is to see the self and to see God in the heart. But that's only the beginning, because the state of meditation on God in the heart just sees the form, and there's no action, there's no activity, there's no loving service, there's no reciprocation. There is reciprocation in the sense that the Lord's form is very beautiful and very satisfying to see. Just like you look at some nice paintings and you see and you get some satisfaction. But the reciprocation with the Lord personally in loving service, in activity and service, is the pleasure you get from that is so much greater that you can't even compare it. There's no comparison actually. It says in the Bhagavatam the difference between the amount of water contained in the hoofprint of a calf to an ocean. That's the difference. Pacific Ocean, water in a calf's hoofprint, which is about this big. That's the difference between the pleasure one feels in meditation and bhakti yoga, having loving exchange with Krishna personally. Something? Something. Was that something?
That was everything.
Was everything? Well, not everything, but it was something. More than a little something. What else? So nice to see you two here. Hare Krishna. We've been waiting to meet you and share this experience. Very special.
That felt like an auspicious day to start reading.
It is. Very auspicious day. And to hear that poem from Bhaktivinoda Thakur is today very auspicious.
Yeah. I remember in college, in my dorm room, I used to have just a portion of that poem.
Yes, one
Just
shloka.
Forget the past that sleeps,
Sleeps.
there the future dream again.
Yes.
That one.
Yes.
On the wall.
Yes. It's nice to hear the whole poem.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's very nice. Hear it in context. Okay, forgive me. I'm going to shut down now. And Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur ki jai. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Samaveda Bhaktivinoda ki jai. Thank you all for coming in cyberspace. Please keep sharing, caring by sharing, and spreading this nectar. The world needs it now more than it ever has before. Hare Krishna.